Let's look into what VDM brushes are and how you can use them. By default, ZBrush ships with some VDM brushes. These are found under the Chisel Creature brush, which is B, and they're right here. Now, why are VDM brushes so powerful? Essentially, VDM brushes contain essentially a 3D model, which has now been stored into a brush. This flows beautifully into the model as well. Like, it's not a separate model, it's just using the topology we have to shape it. So now we have a spike here, and now we can just quickly just drag it out like so, and we can just very quickly just change the actual design of the character. This is incredibly powerful, and we actually made a whole different product from this, the ZBrush or the Flipnomal's creature kit, which allows you to just very quickly just create these kind of awesome looking designs. Now, I don't find the ones which ship with ZBrush to be particularly good. So how can we make them, and how can we make them better than the ones we have in ZBrush? The way we make VDM brushes is actually quite simple. The documentation for it is a lot harder than it makes it seem a lot harder than it actually is. But what we're going to be doing is we are going to be creating a new plane 3D. Then we said make polymesh 3D. And then we subdivide this up a few times. We want to subdivide this to something like maybe like 250,000, 260,000. And now we can start to manipulate this. We are in this video going to make a little horn. So now we can just start to make a horn from this. The way we do this is we just first store a morph target. The reason we store a morph target first is because then we can paint it out afterwards. We just want to make sure that we never touch the edges of this. This becomes very important when it comes to creating the mesh or actually extracting the mesh. So make sure we have stored a morph target. We can do this in our interface, or we can do this through tool, morph target, and store empty right here. So let's make a little horn. Now we can use a bunch of different brushes for this. We can use the move brush, BMV, or we can just hit the 4 key on the keyboard. And now we can mask it out so we make sure that the horn doesn't really impact anything else. So we would definitely make sure it's not impacting the borders. Now we control click on it, and then we can just drag out the horn like this. We can use the gizmo, go up here to the move brush or the move tool, and just drag it out like so, and then we can rotate it as well like this. You can move it out like so, and then we can scale it down, and now we have a nice horn. What you can see though is it gets incredibly stretched. So what we want to do, we want to smooth it out. We want to go to lowest levels, and we just want to smooth it out. Now you can see that we are basically unifying this a lot more. And just go up in subdivision levels and just keep smoothing. Now we have a very nice and even horn like this we can work from. Then we can clear the mask, because now we clearly haven't changed anything else. Then we can go up with the clay billet brush, and then we can just start to sculpt up. Maybe we want some transition stuff here between the horn and where the skin goes, just so it looks like it doesn't just flush into it. It actually has a bit of transition. Like so. You should really make your VDM brushes really nice. The nicer they are, the really the nicer your sculpt is going to be. Let's make a little bit of a twist to it as well. Just hold on the Alt key and we're just twisting around like so. Completely optional, of course, just so we can make something which looks a little nicer. I tend to make the horns more textured at the bottom than the top, because the top is where they will have more impact, meaning they would most likely be more smooth off from continuous contact. But okay, something like this would look quite good. Now we can just smooth out everything just a little bit, set the smooth intensity down, hold down the shift key while to get the smooth brush, and then we set the C intensity down to something like 20. Then we can just smooth it out just to remove some of the shape, like so. Okay, so now we have a pretty decent brush we can use. You can always go and detail this, and I definitely recommend spending more than a minute sculpting this up. So what we then do is we go to the top view like this, and then we need to go to the layer brush, BLA, or just brush L and A, here's right there. And then we need to clone it. You don't technically speaking have to clone it, this is just so we don't destroy the original layer brush. So we just go to brush and we clone. Now you can see we have an additional brush here. It's going to be called layer_1. Now what we have to do is we go to the front view, or top view rather, so you can see it's exactly on top like this. Make sure it's exactly on top, and hit the F key. what the F key is going to do is just going to frame it like so. So just hit the F key. And then we need to make sure perspective is off. Really important as well. And then we go to brush. And then we do from mesh. And now you can see we have a nice brush up here, which has now been captured. So let's see what happens now if we try to sculpt this onto our little troll character. Make sure the scene intensity is set to 100 as well. And we also have to change this to drag rect as well. And there you go. We now have a really nice horn brush like this. Again, you can see that clearly the resolution of the brush, of the resolution of the mesh matters. Now we have a whole subdivision more. So now we can just start to do this. So really quick and easy way to make your own custom VDM brushes. This is going to work perfectly. Literally no issues if you follow this method here. Now, if you do have an issue where you accidentally come up here and you do this. Now, the problem with this method, or with doing this, is that now if we capture the brush, if we go up here and we find the layer brush, and now we hit capture again, if we brush and do from mesh, is that every single time we are going to be sculpting now with this, you are going to see the result of this. You're going to see that we have the, you're going to see that we're going to have a border issue here. You can see the sculpting which comes out here now. This is because we have the border. So if this happens to you, don't panic, because we were clever and we used a morph target. So in order to access this, we hit BMO. And BMO just gives us the morph brush. If I'm going too fast now, just go back to the morph target chapter. And then we can just paint it out like so. Set the intensity to 100. Just paint it out, and there we go. Now this is going to work perfectly fine. One cool thing about the VDM brushes as well is, let's say we want to modify them, and you don't have your scene anymore. You only have your brush. Now you're picking up this brush here, or maybe you're in another case, we are picking up this brush here. So we don't have the original C tool for this, right? Because why would we? What you can do now is, if you want to have the C tool and you want to modify this, you can go under brush and you can hit to mesh. What happens now is now you can see the mesh it was made from. And now you can also see why it's not a particularly nice brush, because you can see here it goes just through the border. Probably in some cases it actually changes the border, and the sculpting is just not that great, particularly like areas like this. What they've also done, they've used a feature which will automatically relax the grid for you. You really don't want to use any of these features because they turn your brush into crap. I know this because I spent months trying to make the skin kit, and the way I've shown you here now, by making a simple plane, no relaxation with like fancy relaxation, only use the smooth brush and only use the move and standard, whatever brushes you want to use, that is guaranteed to produce far better results. Particularly with like, let's look at this as well. This is probably going to be quite crappy as well. Yeah, here you can see there's no way this here is actually going to produce good results. You really want the border to be nice and clean. So to sum it up, super easy to make a VDM brush. We go to plane 3D. We hit make PM3D, make polymesh 3D. Subdivide this up a few times. So around 200 to a million polys, depending on what you want. Then we sculpt on this model as well. We sculpt whatever we want to go out, whatever it is. It can be whatever you want it to be. Then we go to the front view, disable perspective, go to the layer brush, and then we duplicate the layer brush. We set the C intensity to 100, and then we go to brush and we do from mesh, and that will capture this mesh. And then we can go on to our original model, and we can just set the stroke type to drag rect, and then we can just drag out the shape we just made.